Hi, my name is Judge, and this is part 5 out of 7 of my 135 card Castle Nathria Murder Arena review. Let's get right into it, starting with a druid legendary dragon called Topior? Probably Topior? The Shrubagazer. Absolutely terrifying beast. It's a 7 mana, 5/5 dragon. Battle cry for the rest of the game after you cast a nature spell. Summon a 3/3 whelp with rush. So, it's a 7 mana 5/5, which is not good. If you get to cast one nature spell with it, say for 1 mana, that's not bad. That's not terrible. If you get to cast 2 with it, that gets to be pretty good. It's a very slow card, and I'm going to guess that this is mostly not going to be good, because actually having a ton of nature spells can be very difficult to do in Arena. But, like, it's very tempting. You see, we've got potentially some cheap 1-cost, 0-cost nature spells alongside this. You need a whole lot to make it work, so I don't think this card is actually going to be good. It's just too much of a risk for nature spells. If you don't have them in hand, it's going to set you back so far. But in the right deck, when you find, like, say, 6 or 7 cheaper nature spells, this actually could be an interesting way to go if you're not offered the best of legendaries. Don't think it's going to be that good of a card, but it's interesting and probably some consideration and constructed for a deck where you can just fill it with nature spells. Interesting stuff. Next we have Cecily of the Fey Court. 8 mana, 8/8 taunt. It's an Ironbark Protector. But wait, there's more. It has Death Rattle, draw a minion, reduce its cost by 8. So this is clearly for some sort of big druid deck or small spell big druid deck. That, of course, is impossible to pull off in Arena, so you're not going to get usually a very big discount, probably a 2 to 4 mana discount, which isn't the worst. And it also has got the text, draw a card, which makes this vastly better than something like Ironbark Protector. So I think this looks immediately like, oh, it's not going to work in Arena, but I think it's actually just going to be fine. Like, you look at something like Moarg, the 8 mana 8/8 taunt that gains you 8 armor, and instead of gaining armor, the effect this time is draw a 0-cost minion, a little bit of cycle, a little bit of mana reduction, and I think it's going to be actually maybe better than people think, like when just looking at this card. And the high roll potential, I guess, is there, but shouldn't be counted on. I think this card is going to be just fine. I don't think it's going to be something you look at and go like, oh, this legendary is so great, but I think it's going to be completely playable and completely fine with that draw card text on it. Next, another druid card, getting into a druid nature spell called Planted Evidence. That's funny. That's good. They do such a good job with these puns. Oh, excellent stuff. 1 mana, discover a spell. It costs 2 less this turn. Oh my goodness. This is studies. This is nature studies. But you get a 2-cost discount with the stipulation it has to be this turn. This card's going to be extremely good. Anything that's 1 mana discover a spell on its own is fine in Druid, right? So this is going to be great. Very similar to Studies. I want to say maybe not quite as good as Studies, because you can't just fill this in anytime and then preserve your mana discount, but probably very close. Probably very close. That's going to be nearly an auto pick, of course, as most cheap discoveries are in Arena. Very strong card. Another nature spell. Next up, we have Plot of Sin. 3 mana. Summon 2/2/2 Treants, or infuse 5. 2 5/5 Ancients instead. So, 3 mana 5/5. Sorry, 3 mana 10/10. It tends to be quite strong. If you can get a 3 mana 10/10 on the board, that's going to be very good in Arena. Needless to say. Pretty crazy. Now, if you don't get infuse 5, and that's quite a bit to infuse. If you don't, then it's a 3 mana summon 2 2/2s, which we've seen before in Druid even, and that's good, right? And that's a good card. Nothing wrong with that. 3 mana 4/4, 0 risk for this card, and potentially huge reward. I mean, even if you get into the late game, 3 mana 10/10 and then fill in a spell or 1 more mid-sized minion is amazing. This is going to be a great card. At worst, it's good. At best, it's busted. Fantastic. Lots of good nature spells here. Next, we switch it up and head over to Warlock. We've got 5 mana, Shadow Spell, Shadow Waltz. Summon a 3/5 Shadow with Taunt. If a minion died this turn, summon another. So this card, very similar to what we just saw, can either be well, in this case, actually kind of bad. Or really, really strong. 2 Sen'jin Shield Masses for only 1 more mana? That's amazing. The risk is getting a 5-mana 3/5 taunt, which is bad. But it's Arena. Minions are dying all the time. Most turns you're making trades. You just make and trade off one of your minions and come into this on turn 5, and that's extremely good. I think this card's going to be very strong. The consistency factor is there, and it's going to suck if there's nothing to be traded into. If you top deck this with no minions, then that's going to be rough. But I think that it's so common to have minions die on your turn, especially as a Warlock. You go like Zulok, you're trading all the time, and this is going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a really, really strong card. Next, another Warlock card. This is a Warlock Beast. 3 mana, 3/3. Death Rattle, reduce the cost of the highest cost Shadow spell in your hand by 3. So if you have Shadow Waltz, that could be good. You play this on 3, trade into it, play your 2 mana Shadow Waltz right away. Great. However, I don't think that Shadow spells are so consistent that this is going to be worth running a 3 mana 3/3 in your hand. Not to mention you have to have the Shadow spell in your hand, not just in your deck. So I feel like, despite potential high rolls, this is going to be generally not a very good card. You gotta have a thick, heavy Shadow deck, and that's very unlikely in Arena. And even if you have 1 or 2 good Shadow spells, it's gotta be in your deck, or you're just holding on to this, and that's awkward. So I don't think this is quite gonna work out too well. But if you happen to have the Shadow Waltz or another big Shadow spell, super, then, great. It's not worth slowing down on turn 3 to have this. Next, we move on to a Warlock Legendary Minion, Lady Darkvein, 5 mana 3/6. Battlecry, summon 2/1 Shades. Each gains a Death Rattle to cast your last Shadow spell. So here's the thing about this card. 5 mana 3/6, summon 2/2/1s is already a very good card without any extra effect. So this is going to be a good legendary. Reminds me a little bit of Vectis, which was always like, that card's fine on its own, but you can get potential high rolls off of the Death Rattle, so great. Very similar thing here. Now, the only downside is sometimes these Shadow spells could actually harm your board. So you gotta have the right Shadow spells to be picking this one up in general, because you can have Shadow spells that are gonna kill your own side of the board, which is not gonna be good because it doesn't choose where you cast here. But if you have something like, say, Shadow Waltz, then it's going to be quite insane to be playing a 5 mana, already a 5 mana, 7/8, and then getting an extra 6/10 taunt out of it. That's going to be nuts. So I think this card, again, very good on its own, low risk, and the high roll is absolutely bonkers. Next, we move on to Shaman. We've got 3 mana, 0/3 totem. We get another totem for Shaman. Party Favor totem. At the end of your turn, summon a random basic totem. Infuse 2, summon 2 instead. So I'll say this. Without the infuse, this sucks. With the infuse, weirdly, actually, maybe good. Maybe actually not too bad. 3 mana is expensive. If you've already played your legendary where all your totems have +2 attack, then you're set. Then great. You're all good. But even just 3 mana 0/3, summoning 2 basic totems every single turn, maybe a bit of a win more card in the sense that if you play this and they don't have an answer to it, you are already in a good position. But you hit a taunt totem and this could actually spiral. It's a big threat. There's, strength and healing totems are both quite strong. I feel like this actually isn't going to be as bad as it looks because Infuse 2 is rather easy. I think this could be good in like a quicker Shaman in Arena. Should be interesting to try it. I really do want to try out some Totem Shaman come August 2nd. Next, we get another Druid Nature spell. This one, much more expensive than we saw. It's an 8 mana Nightshade Bud. Choose one. Discover a minion from your deck to summon, or a spell to cast. This is unpickable. This sucks a lot. This is terrible. Unless you somehow manage to get a constructed big Druid with, like, no early minions, ramp, or whatever. Which is just, that's constructed. That's not Arena. It's not going to happen. This card is terrible. When you discover a minion from your deck, it's very likely going to be way smaller than 8 mana. And most spells are not going to be worth looking for 8 full mana. So let's move on to perhaps a spell that actually might be worth looking for with Nightshade Bud. And that is Convoke the Spirits. 10 mana, Cast 8 random druid spells. Targets chosen randomly. Have we seen this card before? I feel like we've seen this card before. We've seen some in box form, perhaps. Druid gets its very own puzzle box, but it only gets to cast 8 instead of 10. Meaning they must have been doing some sort of testing where they decided 10 was just too good, right? This has to be good. This has to be good. If they're going to make it 8 instead of 10, there's got to be a reason. Surely, on average, you're either discovering some stuff and discounting it, summoning a couple minions and buffing them. Surely this has to be worth it if they're going to bump it down from 10 to 8. This is impossible to review because I don't know what sets are going to be in. How many different kinds of spells are there going to be? What are the odds of hitting a good one versus a bad one? That's going to be very dependent on what sets are in. But we've seen cards like this before, and they sure have been good. I'm going to go ahead and say this card's going to be auto pick, whether it's for fun or because it's amazing. Still not worth drafting Nightshade Bud for, but, you know, if you happen to get one somehow, if you happen to discover one, maybe you're looking for Convoke the Spirits. Next, we get a Priest Holy spell called Clean the Scene. It's 5 mana, and it reads, destroy all minions with 3 or less attack. Infuse 3, 6 or less attack. So, in its initial form, we see it very much like the 4 mana, destroy all minions with 2 attack or less. And that card was always fine to good. This is much better. Getting the 1 extra attack on its base form is already good. Infuse 3 is not a ton. And the 5 mana Twisting Nether nature of that Infuse 3 is classic Priest, and it's going to be frustrating to get hit by. When your opponent does, like, nothing, they play a couple small minions. They play a couple value minions, right? Like a Wand Maker or something, and then they just die off, and they end up just clearing board way ahead in value. Typical Priests. Amazing card here. There will be times where you're not going to be able to infuse it. It's top decked. And then it'll be, like, fine. But I think that its high roll, like, its infuse isn't that hard to meet, and it's so good that I think this is going to be a really, really strong Priest removal card. Next, we move into neutral territory. We have 3 mana 2/4 Ashen Elemental. It is an elemental. Battle Cry, whenever your opponent draws a card, next turn they take 2 damage. This card is no good at all. This will be probably pushed into some, like, OTK stuff in Constructed, but this just doesn't work in Arena. It's, slightly better than a vanilla 3 mana 2/4, but 3 mana 2/4 is just such a terrible stat line nowadays. So many overstatted minions coming into turn 3 and 4. This is just not going to make it, and there's no combo. It's going to be the best of bad cards if you have to take one, and then it's just like a bad 3-drop. Not good. Don't draft it. 4 mana, 3/3 legendary minion, Theotar the Mad Duke. Battlecry, discover a card in each player's hand and swap them. Why do I see this as a Priest card? Anybody else see this as a Priest card? This is nuts. 4 mana, 3/3, of course, is very understated. That effect is really good. That effect is really, really good. Not only is the swap great, you give them your 1-drop or 2-drop and you take their biggest threat, or a really awesome spell, or a discover minion, but you also get even more information about their hand because you discovered from it. This card, I think, is insane. This one's gonna be very frustrating to get hit by, as all of a sudden your hand goes from being, okay, I've got a lot of stuff to do, to I have one thing to do and that's it, and now I've got this crap in my hand, right? It's like discarding a card and your opponent gets something amazing. I think this is gonna be a really exceptional legendary. Next, we've got another legendary, this time for Rogue, 4 mana 5/4 elemental. Death Rattle, if you control a secret, store Halkias' soul inside of it. It resummons Halkias when triggered. I'm going to have to work on that name, but you get the idea. 4 mana 5/4 is acceptable. Genzo the Shark was drafted quite a bit, and it's not something you'd love to see, but it's playable, so why not, right? And the effect is extremely good if you have a secret, so this is something that's going to be like, hey, I already have 2 secrets. This could be great. And it's also not bad to play on its own. Or it's going to be something that's like, I don't really want this, but I guess I'll take it, and hope for a secret if you don't have better legendaries offered. Seems like there's no real risk, except that maybe you're turning down a cool legendary to try to go for secret synergy, which you probably shouldn't do. This is amazing if you already have a few secrets. If not, it's fine. Next up, we get even more secret synergies. from Rogue. 4 mana, 3/4 Private Eye. Battlecry, cast a secret from your deck. Combo cast 2 instead. That's interesting. So 4 mana, 3/4 cast 2 secrets is fantastic. You can't do it on turn 4, but it's really, really good. You thin out your deck. It's great mana efficiency, and maybe the secrets actually do stuff, you know, which is great. We're actually going to take a look at a few secrets in a second here. Even the Battlecry, 4 mana, 3/4, get a secret. It's a -1/-1 off a Yeti and replace for a secret. Not the worst, especially just depending on the power level of the secrets you've drafted. This might be, you don't even need that good of secrets probably if you're getting 2 of these for it to be good. It might be worth pushing a bit more secret synergy with all this secret rogue stuff going on. Pretty interesting. Why don't we take a look at these secrets before we judge Private Eye too much? But I think it's going to be a good card. I think it's going to be a good card. Maybe not insane, but I think it'll be good. Because I don't think there's too many insane rogue secrets. Sticky Situation is 2 mana. Secret, after your opponent casts a spell, summon a 3/4 spider with stealth. Very, very similar to Cat Trick, and that is a great card. And I think likewise this will be a great card. For Arena, arguably even a better card. Strong, spells are fairly common. You play this before they coin, that's going to be a 2 mana 3/4. That's a great one to get from your Private Eye. If you have a Private Eye in this, that's a fantastic combo. Really, really strong. In Arena, I'd say slightly better. Cat Trick, even though Hunter wants to smork. Good stuff. Next, we have Kidnap, 2 mana, secret. After your opponent plays a minion, stuff it in a 0/4 sack. Interesting. So, after the 0/4 sack is killed on your side of the board, they will get the minion back, but in their hand, I believe, not on the board. So this is kind of like a preemptive sap. And you get a 0/4, which is not nothing that you could buff and maybe use to attack. So that seems decent, but it's pretty easy to play around, where they just play their 1-drop or their 2-drop, and then it's in the sack, and that's whatever, and then maybe at their convenience they can kill the 0/4. So I think this is going to maybe be average to below average. Average to below average. Going to be really sick sometimes when your opponent has no choice but to play a big minion, but it's probably just too easy to play around. Next we have Stag Charge. 3 mana, deal 3 damage, summon a random dormant wild seed. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, we looked at the wild seeds in another video before this part, but of course, to recap, those wild seeds are 1 mana dormant, 3/1 rush, 2 mana dormant for 2 turns, 2/5 taunt, and 3 mana dormant for 3 turns, 5/4, and a 4/2 weapon. I think we're just going to go ahead and say, whenever you see Wild Seed, it's probably busted. The Wild Seeds are so strong. And you 3 mana deal 3 damage, that's a bash. People pick bash, it's not amazing, but it's good. And then you get, you know, either a quick charge of another 3 damage for a 3 mana deal 6, you get a larger taunt, you know, 3 mana 2/5 taunt, deal 3 damage is crazy, and of course that 3 dormant one is just an absolute pile of stats. So this is going to be amazing. This is going to be fantastic. Maybe not quite as good as the 2-drop because it comes down a turn later and it's not as consistent because you can't just play it on anything. But that's a great card. The Wild Seeds are nuts. 4 mana, 3/5, Orion, Mansion Manager. After a friendly secret is revealed, cast a different mage secret and gain +2/+2. Oh boy. So initially, this looks like it's going to not be good because it's a 4 mana, 3/5, and that's bad. And if you don't have any secrets, then this is going to be, you know, useless. And I think that actually might be exactly how it is. But if there's a single mage secret on the board and they have to trigger it, this can really spiral. Already 4 mana 5/7. I think I would love to try this out just with a secret. Imagine you take Oasis Ally. Normally they're going to have to find the answer from hand, which, okay, fine, fair enough. They can't trade into this, because this will buff and probably kill their thing, and then another secret will be cast, and that'll be insane. I think this card is either terrible or amazing, and it's very deck dependent. You can discover secrets in Mage to maybe try to make this work. I think this is going to be inconsistent, but the power level of what it could be is so high that it might be worth trying to make it happen. That's a little greedy. It's going to be good in particular decks with a couple of secrets, because its low roll is like, they still had to, deal with it. And its high end is going to be absolutely bonkers. Next, we have 4 mana, 3/2, Widowbloom Seedsman, Battlecry, draw a nature spell, gain an empty mana crystal. So, ramp tool for Druid, and this is an interesting one. All around, it draws a spell. Drawing a card is a big deal in Arena. You gain 1 mana crystal, you develop some tempo, and you draw that nature spell. Without the nature spell, this is just not good enough. And even still, losing tempo this badly on turn 4 is tough. So, how good is that extra draw? Coming down on turn 4, this seems good. This seems good. Tough to gauge just how much you can rebalance after that tempo loss with that draw and mana crystal. But if you're drafting, I look at this and compare it to Overgrowth, because that was the same thing, where it was like, this could be really good. That's a lot of mana crystals. But if you just fall too far behind, you're done. And that's going to be the same thing with this. You're going to need to curve well into this, and if you do, it's going to be good. And you're going to need to have the right deck for it, but that's not always the most difficult to do with Druid. So I think that's this in the right hands, this could be very good. But I think people will try to push this and fall too far behind, much like Overgrowth. Next, we have Wild Spirits. Summon 2 different dormant Wild Seeds. Make your Wild Seeds awaken 1 turn sooner. This card is insane. This card, I'm gonna cry. This card is so insane. These Wild Seeds are absolutely bonkers. Oh my god. This card's amazing, just like the other Wild Seeds. Incredible. You get 2 of them, meaning at the earliest it's 1 turn dormant. Because if you get the 2 and the 3, all you have to do is wait for 1 turn for a 3 mana 2/5 taunt, which doesn't one of those exist? Just a 3 mana 2. Isn't there just a 3 mana 2/4 taunt out there? This card is absolutely insane. You have a 67% chance to get a 5/4 and a 4/2 weapon alongside immediate action. This is nuts. Do not skip Wild Spirits. Holy. Unbelievable. And lastly here, our last Wild Seed card is a legendary 5 mana 4/5 Arelon. Battlecry, summon 1 of each dormant Wild Seed, and I'm just, this is nuts. The Wild Seed cards are all some of the best cards I've ever seen in Arena. They're insane. They're insane. They're nuts. They're nuts. I don't care if you have to wait a few turns for your 4/2 weapon and your 5/4. You get stuff immediately. This is +1/+1 off fine stats. A Pit Fighter. And it summons every Wild Seed. This card is insane. The Wild Seeds are absolutely mind-blowing. And if they're not already upon release, nerfed and offering right to an insane extent, they will be, and quickly, because these cards are busted. All right, everyone, that is review number 5. We're getting very close to the end. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and comment below. Let me know what you think. Maybe you think Wild Seeds are actually trash. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the review, what you think about these new cards coming out, and I will see you in part number 6.